Good evening, everybody. It is that time of the week. It's Monday. It's Monday, but more importantly, it's Worship and Wellness Monday. I'm so excited to be here today. Today was a good day. Tell me about your day. Who is here? You know how we do what we do. You know, if you're joining in, let me know that you're here. Just tap in your name. We are talking about women and family. This month has been Women's Month, and we have been talking about all kind of things this month. And we are not going to forget about the family. We talked about women in business. We talked about all kind of great stuff. So if you're joining, I want you to put your name in the chat and just say, I'm here, and tell me who you are. And also, we believe that sharing is caring. So I look forward to you sharing this live because here's the thing, right? Like, you're getting good stuff, and the people you're connected to, you want them to get good stuff. And this is some good stuff, y'all. So let's share, because sharing is caring. We believe that sharing is caring. So how was your day? I see people are joining. I'm looking forward to today's discussion, but I'd love to know how your day has been going. Let's see who is joining us today. Hey, how are you? Good. So glad that you're doing well. Hi, Tandra. So good to see you this evening. All right, so let's get into this because, you know, it's interesting. Usually when I'm doing these lives, it's dark outside. And I'm finally starting to do it on a Monday night, and I can look outside and I'm like, ooh, hi, Derek. I want you to stay on, Derek. I could use your input. But today it's so interesting that it is 6:30 and the light is on. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. All right, well, let's get into this. Today we are talking about women and family, and the focus has been the Proverb 31 woman. And we've been looking at the principles of a Proverb 31 woman. And so today I have Dr. Karen Johnson, and I'm going to bring her on so that she can, hi, Dr. Karen.
Hello, P, how are you?
I am doing well. Yes. So Pastor Dr. Karen, I never know the right way to say it. Is it Pastor Karen or Pastor Dr. Karen? I don't know. It's all start running together after a while, but I want you to share a little bit about who you are and the ministry that you're from, and just a little bit about yourself before we kind of go into this wonderful woman in the Bible.
Okay, well, some call me Pastor K, some call me whatever. No, I shouldn't say that. Well, anyway, my husband and I, we co-founded First Christian Community Church, and believe it or not, this is our 30th year. This is 30-year anniversary. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
We started in 1991, and here we are 30 years later. And I became pastor after he passed in 2001. Mm-hmm. 2 full-grown children. They're adults.
Full-grown. You got two
full-grown. That's right. I can't claim them on my taxes anymore.
That was a sad day when it happened for me.
So that's about it. I mean, you know, I've been in the ministry as pastor, of course, for 20 years now, but really became a pastor's wife at the tender age of 24. I was 24.
Wow.
When we got married, and he was a pastor at 25, so he was very young.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married, and I was 24 years old. So really been in the ministry more than half my life now, to be honest.
Wow. We're gonna get into it. Don't give him too much. Don't give him too much, Pastor K. Don't give him too much. We're gonna get into. I definitely want to get into that because, you know, we had somebody that was on that talked about women in ministry and what that looks like, and your walk has been one that can be honored and patterned after. A lot of times we don't think so, but there's strength that comes from those that have gone before us to be able to say it's doable, right? And so I look forward to your testimony of your experience. Hey, mine is joining. Hey, she's praising Pastor Niece, Lord Jesus, praising Pastor Aunt Jessie. And so let's talk a little bit about the Proverbs 31 woman, right? There's a lot of things that has been highlighted, and I'm just gonna pick out some scriptures that, or verses within the confines of the scripture that kind of highlights women and family from her perspective. And then I'd love for you to share your thoughts on that particular verse and maybe how it did or did not apply to you, or maybe not even thought about it from a particular way. And I'm going to start actually with verse 11. So for those that are joining, the Proverb 31 woman can be found in Proverbs 31. And it traditionally starts at verse 10, where it says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies, right? But then verse 11 says, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he have no need of spoil. And I often refer to another version, which is the Amplified, and it says, the heart of her husband trusts her with secure confidence, and he will have no lack of gain. Which I find very interesting, because in relationships today, there's a bit of a challenge, right? Like, you have some relationships that are doing well. And it's interesting, especially even over the time of the pandemic, I can only share with you how many people that are married or in relationships, and they have really struggled during this time. It has tested many marriages. It has tested many relationships. And so there's issues of confidence. There's issues of trust. There's issues of communication. And so when you hear that particular verse, what comes to mind, or whether from your own experience or even just the scripture itself?
In fact, I've used that particular verse when I performed marriages before, and I think it's in the New King James Version, and it's more or less saying that your husband trusts you enough to give you his heart. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'd like to reverse that, and that the relationship between a husband and wife should be to the level that I'm comfortable enough that I can give you my heart and know that my heart is going to be safe with you. To be honest, that should be something that's done before we walk down the aisle and say, I do. Is that, do you feel confident enough in this person that you can do that? I mean, when we look at the Proverbs 31 woman here, it's really a mother talking to her son, telling her son qualities and characters to look for, characteristics rather, to look for in a woman. And he's basically saying, look for a woman that you can give your heart to. Which comes into that submission thing, which is, voluntarily and so forth. But yeah, it is necessary, or it is good for marriages to go forth, is to have that level of trust. And to the point of how the pandemic, many couples have suffered through the pandemic. I think what the pandemic has shown, like it has shown in so many other areas, there were issues before the pandemic. Just put a microscope on it and just highlighted what those issues are that need to be addressed. And personally, I think when it's two people who want to address a situation together, they have to be together. I think any situation can be dealt with.
Sure. What about in your personal experience with your marriage, right? Were there times that you felt, I know my husband is confident in who I am and what I bring to the table? Or were there ever times that you felt like, I don't know, what do you think about me? Sometimes you may have that moment, like, I don't think he really sees me for who I am, right? Like we hear this sometimes in relationships. But this scripture says that the husband truly confidently knows that she got it, and he gains from it, right? And so, yeah.
Well, I think I can confidently say that he had a lot of confidence in me, and that he trusted me, that I
Mhm,
had his back and covered him.
mhm, mhm,
Um, so, you know, to get to that point,
mhm.
um, it's a process,
Sure.
and that is, when two become one, it's practical and it's positional. It's
Right.
practical in the sense
Right.
that that yes, when you stand before that altar and you say your I do's, yes, in the spiritual level, you have become one. But
Mhm,
then the work starts.
mhm.
And where you have two people who are now you trying to learn each other, and it's an entire process, and that's why it's called a labor of love. It should be
Mhm.
something that is done out of love,
Sure.
but it's going to be work, and you have to work at the communication. You have to work at trying to understand each other, and to come to that level of trust. It is an ongoing process, because things are going to happen in your relationship that's going to be like,
Sure.
"Oh, what was that all about?"
Right. Sure. Sure.
So yeah, it's a process, and I think as far, when Johnson and I started dating, I was 19 years old. So uh, you know 19, and 5 years later, here we walking down the aisle, and
Mhm,
walking into a church. He's now a pastor, and I'm coming in
mhm,
for
mhm.
a lot of adjusting.
Yeah. Tell
That's
us, so talk about that, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Having going from, if I may make it more modern, this my boo to this my pastor, right? There had to been a transition. Like, did you know at some point that he was walking that walk to that place? Talk about
yeah.
position to that place, and where was your brain kind of wrapped around the idea of 5 years later and now being the wife of a pastor at a young age?
That's a good question. Well, when we start dating, he always knew he had the call to become a
Mhm.
pastor. So we're dating. I know this is something that he's been called to do. However, here was the issue. When he actually received the phone call that we have a church for you, that went to a whole nother reality.
Right.
And it took me, I had to go through an adjustment. It's one thing to talk about becoming a pastor, to talk about this is your dream, and this is where God is leading you. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that's down the
Downgrade.
road. Yeah, he might get a phone call when he's in his 30s, and then
Right.
at the time I'm thinking 30 was old. So
Right. Right.
it'd be late before he gets it'd be a while. We get
Yeah.
to enjoy life before
Yeah. Yeah.
deal
Sure.
with all that. So he gets the phone call that he has an appointment
Oh my God.
on Wesley. And I had to be honest with you, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was because the first thing that came to me was, is he now going to change?
Mm.
That
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
role?
Mhm.
Will our relationship change? Am I going to lose him
Mhm.
now? So I went through some changes about
Mhm.
that. And
That's good though. That's really good because the life of a pastor, period, right? It is that concept of I gotta share them, right? He's
oh yeah,
gonna he's gonna have needs, or everybody else is gonna be pulling on him and the what about me's, right? I mean,
yeah,
people who aren't even dealing with a mate who may be in ministry, it could be work, right? It could be, my mate is in the military, so they go away. It could be a host of things, or other situations where you begin to feel that place of what about me, and true to form, not only women go through it, men go through that phase as well, depending on that role, right? Like you can
yeah.
have a very set. I think about myself, my hands is in everything. So
Mhm.
I know sometimes I can hear it because I get so tunnel, right?
Right.
um it's a challenge to find that balance. And so I can only imagine, like with me, it's just me. But ministry, it's like 85,000 other people.
And it's not only the other people, it's who's your boss.
Right. You can't compete with God.
Okay.
That's
I mean, and Tanya, see, that was a real thing.
That's so good.
Because, you know, early on in ministry, and unfortunately, he didn't learn about balance and boundaries until late. Okay, when he was just might as well say at the end of his life, to be honest. And that is, you know, when, you know, if he got a phone call, he had to go right away. Or I remember, you know, if anybody called him for a speaking engagement, at one point, you know, we were having 3 services. You know, I don't know. Wow. This is before we were in the church where we are, but, you know, we were out. We would have 3 services: 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And if someone called him to say, hey, we would like for you to come to the 3 o'clock service, he was doing like 4 services, preaching 4 different messages.
Right.
And he thought he was obligated. I mean, I remember him, you know, I felt obligated to doing that. But I was feeling that, you know what, you know, if he had been a truck driver, I could complain. Or if he had been this, I could complain about the boss. But how you complain about God?
Right.
I had to learn my place. You know, it's like God first. But I wanted to be second, and then the church. He finally learned to figure that out. But you know what I mean? But it was a process, because it wasn't always like that. It was, he felt it was started, and then was church, and then, you know, here comes his wife, and here comes family. So we, you know, you have to work that out, and I had to learn and adjust as well.
Sure. So there's a question on the table, and I'm sure you were going to get to it, but maybe this is going to push us into it. The question on the table says, how does his call to the ministry now become your call to the ministry, and how did your life change? Okay, Derek, we're gonna tackle that, but I don't want her to skip a step, but she's gonna tackle that. So you know, Johnson now gets this appointment. You guys assignment, you guys have ministry, and you've gotten married. At what point then there's children that come who are now whole grown, but they were whole little ones at some point. So that happened, you know, you have your children. How does that play out? How does that play out for you? Right? Because now you've just adjusted at some point to physically accepting, even though mentally and emotionally there still may have been a process to accepting this appointment. And then the children, did that give you did you feel more like, I have a purpose? Since my husband is doing ministry, I'm taking care of the kid. Like what was going on for you there?
Well, I always felt that I had a purpose, because, you know, I had a career too. Wasn't within the church, but I had a career, and so, you know, I'm focusing on my career, and of course, here comes children coming along, and then a child that was Ricky. Ricky was the first one, and so so then what ends up happening? Initially, Johnson was full time, so you know, he was full time pastoring initially when we were under United Methodist Church. So like during the day, he was the one who would be at home, and he would take Ricky, you know, to his grandparents, to the sitter, and I didn't have to do that. So that's kind of where the balance came in. You know, he made sure dinner was ready when I got in. So we had that balance. And then things really shifted, like when First Christian started. So when you're starting a church from ground up, you're talking about 24/7 work. And so it wouldn't be anything for the kids not to see him, would see him like in the morning and wouldn't see him again until the next morning. And so a lot of that then would end up on me, you know. Now I'm still working. Right. I have a full-time job that does not necessarily end at 5 o'clock.
Oh, you had 3 jobs, like many of the parents today. Got it.
That's
Understood.
exactly right. You got
Yeah.
your regular job,
Yep.
then you got the church, because now that First
Mhm.
Christian has started, now I'm more involved in the church. And
Mhm.
so my day would be getting up in the morning, driving the kids down to my grandmother's, because this is what to their grandmother's, leaving there, going to my job, leaving the job. Either my husband would pick them up or I might pick them up, and going to the church.
Church.
Go home.
Lord have mercy those days. But you know what? That speaks to the scripture. That speaks to the scripture on 15 where it talks about it, right? It says, she rises also while it's still night and gives food to her household and assigns tasks to her maids. She considers a field before she buys it or accepts it, expanding her business prudently with her profits. She plants fruitful vines in the vineyard. You know, ultimately, many women, like I said, whether you're in ministry or not in ministry, we, sometimes do walk around with this S on our chest, whether we want to or not, right? Like your children may see you like, oh, my mom, she did everything. Meanwhile, you like, I don't know how, I don't know what happened. I don't know how I did it. It's only the grace of God where I found that energy to get through the confines of the day, to make sure that the children are fed, make sure that their needs are met, make sure they get their education, make sure the ministry is moving, or the business. Maybe you're out there and you're watching and you have a business that you're helping to support your mate. Maybe it's, your mate is in school and you're holding down the fort. Whatever it is, the truth of the matter is it is a real element.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why things like worship and wellness is so necessary, because sometimes we also forget about ourselves in the process because we're doing so much. You ever had those moments where you like, oh, I just remembered I forgot to eat today?
Yeah, yeah. That is a big issue with women, period. And that, to be honest with you, when you read this Proverbs 31 woman, she wears me out.
Yeah.
Who does all of that?
Right.
I realize this is a composite of a woman, and this
Sure.
mom is trying to tell the son, these are some of the things. This is a checklist you might want to look for. But there's some women who think they need to try to
be all of that.
You can't do all of that. But yeah, I think one of the issues that we as women, we tend to lose ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes forget what our own personal goals were, and things that we had set aside for ourselves, because we're busy taking care of the kids, we're busy holding down the house, and especially for that of a single mom.
Right.
And so, that was one of the things that it was several years ago. I ran this workshop. I was dealing with repositioning. I was using one of T.D. Jakes' books, and I did a whole workshop thing. And I asked this one question, and I said, tell me, what's your dream? What is your dream? What is your dream now? And what dream did you have, but you just got caught up in life and you didn't fulfill it?
Right. Wow.
I got a blank look. And one woman finally speaks up and she says, I don't even know how to dream.
Wow.
Not I don't remember.
Wow.
I don't even remember. I don't know how to dream. And so that session, I ended up having to put the book away. And it was an entirely different session. On now, moms had become so engrossed in taking care of the kids, trying to hold it down, you making sure the bills are paid, keeping a roof over their head. And again, a lot of these women are single women as well. So they forget if they had a dream, they forgot all about it for some of them. And for some, they were like, I never had a goal for myself. So, one of the things we try to stress is, and what I try to do for myself, even back then, and I had said this a little earlier, it's necessary to have boundaries and balance. You need to have balance in your life where you take some time for yourself. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, you need to have some balance. And you need boundaries because you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah, I say it all the time. I love it. That's it. You teach people how to treat you.
You teach them.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. And it's funny that you say, balance. Balance is definitely something as women that we do struggle with. And the concern is, if we're struggling with it, how do we even teach our children who we're supposed to teach how to balance, right? Yeah. And it's I every now and then I get my own checkup from the neck up, right? So I kind of go once a year or whatever, kind of have a dumping session. And I'll never forget, I had a counselor that told me, segment your stuff. So I have a corner for work, a corner on my book, a corner for work, a corner for business, a corner for personal, a corner for ministry. She said, and in the middle, circle and say, what are you doing for yourself? Yeah. And so, it's a reminder at the end of the day because I use it every day, and I use it every day. I look and I'm like, how many days out the week I didn't have that circle? And it's some of these small tangible acts that we can do. Because, people will say, well, how am I supposed to do it? I don't know. Well, here is a technique. Here's one technique. Write it out. Write out what you do. Write out what you want to see. What is one thing you can do for it? Can be something small. I love Swedish fish. I don't care if that means I'm going to go and eat me some Swedish fish today. That is my moment. That's my space. I'm going to sit down and watch the birds, whatever. Whatever you have to do, you got to include it, because it is easy to lose yourself in everybody else, which causes you to lose the opportunity to dream.
Yeah. Which means that it also that you are not giving, you don't have the best part of you, and you are really not presenting your best self.
Sure.
When you lose who you are, and it's another thing. And the other thing is, what is it? Not only that we're teaching our children, but particularly our daughters. Mm-hmm. What are we teaching them when it comes to how to have balance and also how to have some boundaries?
Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk a little bit about that, because you have a son and a daughter, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I want you to talk about, from the mom perspective, of what were some of those challenges that you found, even just with your walk being a mom. So we already talked about, we know there's still the work, there's still the ministry, there's still the raising of the children. What were some things that was really, really important for you to instill in them? And then what are some of the things that you really wanted to, but you felt like it was a little bit of a challenge to either get it across or to execute, or you felt like this is an area that I wish I could have done differently?
Yeah. First of all, I'll start with my son, since that he's the oldest. For him, my challenge really, it's a couple of things that happened. Number one, first, when he was little, and of course his father is still here, I was very protective, and I remember he got into this little scrapple with some little kid down the street, and I'm ready to go down and I'm going to defend my kid, and I'm going to get my kid. And my husband was like, no, you're not. You're going to let him fight it out, because he has to figure that out on his own, which, I always say, moms, we can raise our sons,
right?
But there needs to be a male somewhere in there, because we don't know what it's like to be a man, and we especially don't know what it's like to be a Black man living in America, to be in the skin.
Absolutely.
So we know what it's like to be a mother of a son, because that protection, that need to protect, that's a whole nother ball game, because we have concerns and fears that other mothers who are not of color don't have. We have concern whether our son is being pulled over. So that was like the challenge, especially, his father passed when he was 18. So that was a critical age. And that age where, as mom, I didn't feel adequate enough to give him what he needed. He really need a man to help some of those things. The thing that I could do was to try to teach him how to treat a woman. How to be respectful, of a woman. You know, you treat this woman like you would someone to treat your sister.
Sure.
Um, so now for Erica, of course, that was still different. So now I have a child who only had her father for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about even the early years, her first few years, she wouldn't have good memory of him. And she's, so, you get around to it, she might have good 6 years of remembering him. And so now it's trying to teach her. And the thing that I have to be careful about, because, as women, we tend to have issues with our self-image, I look way and I need to do this. And I didn't really realize how much of that I was passing on to her.
Yeah. And sometimes we really do it more times than not unknowingly, right? It's not the spoken things that we say. Sometimes we look at our own insecurity and then they take that on. Oh, maybe I need to be insecure about this thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, she really stunned me one day because a lot of people say she looks like me. She looks just like me. So, she was doing something. And I said, "Oh, you look beautiful. You look so pretty." And she said, "Well, Mom, how can you say that when you don't say that about yourself?" And I love you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That becomes a challenge. And I tell you, our kids will call you on it. You're like, well, first of all, we ain't talking about me. We talking about you. Don't call on my stuff. It's true. Wow. What was your response to her, though?
To be honest, I really had to pause for a moment because it really hit home. Sure. And so, of course, I'm going to be like, no, that's not me. I'm talking about you. You're really a beautiful young lady. She's still coming back. But I feel like you.
Right. Yeah. And it's so funny because my mom usually is on here. The funny thing is, they say my mom and I also favor, and so I can do certain things. I can say my mother, "Oh, you're such a pretty lady." I said, "I get it from you, Mom." Right. And so I think as we pour into our children, the word says, "Train a child in the way he should go, and he'll never depart from it." When we raise our children and they grow up, ultimately they take on a role, and I can speak to it, that I need you to understand that you were a great mom and you helped all that I am to become, right? Irrelevant to what you felt I didn't have, I should have had, I could have had. And so we are sometimes that reminder to our parents that I'm you. I'm from you. I'm a part of you. I am you. And as a parent on the other side of the fence, sometimes it's hard because we look at the areas of loss or gap or what we didn't have and where we miss out. And we forget that piece about it. It goes back to us losing ourselves, right? We don't focus on us, or we do, but just the parts that we don't like. So right. There's a comment on they're commenting. They're commenting all. Wow. Yes. Okay, good. There was a comment that said there needs to be a man in the house to raise a son. And actually, I do want you to speak to that because you mentioned Pastor Johnson passed away at the age of 18 for Ricky. And there wasn't a man at that point in the house, but there was a man. There were men a part of his life, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So who were
not only did he need a man, my daughter needed a
daughter. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So then there was another comment that said, I don't, what's your thoughts on this? I actually don't think a man has to be in the house to raise a male, but great role models in his life that he can connect to. And I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely in a close proximity. Yep, you're right. Yep, in a close proximity. So now the children are getting older, and I want to go back to that original question that popped up earlier about how did Dr. Pastor Karen ends up taking on ministry, the ministry?
Well, let me back up. As the pastor's wife, I understood my role, and I grew to the point of knowing that I was appointed and anointed to be a pastor's wife.
That's good.
You know, it clicked with us. We were the balance of each other. When he passed, there becoming a pastor was not on my agenda, my life's agenda at all. None. I worked in the ministry, always worked in the ministry, loved working in the ministry, doing what I was doing. I was more of an administrator.
Sure.
Handle the events of the church and things like that. That's what I was doing. So after he passed, you know, I actually was, you know, who's going to be the next pastor? So how I came to the role was that God called me into the role. I did not volunteer for it. I did not ask for it. I did not put in an application for it. He called me to the position. So that's how I ended up there. And you know, Pastor T, that he calls you, and you just got to. I'm just one of those that, okay, I'm not going to just go fight it. You know, you can't fight with God. Just right. Go ahead and do whatever He asks you to do, and just ask Him to help you to learn to love it. You know,
right. That's it. I think that's the key. Ask Him to help you to learn to love it. Here's the thing: the truth of the matter is, it's for your good, and it's for everybody else's good. The problem is, we just don't see where it's for our good, right? And No. And we don't ask for it. I'm like you. I'm just crazy enough to believe that if He said it, it must be something to it, right? I'm not that smart to do it, so I might as well comply willingly, or at least as best as possible in that moment, until God secures you. But when you receive peace about it, there is nothing that can stop you from moving forward to what He has called you to do.
Yeah, when I knew that it was Him, and I was pretty sure it was Him. But keep in mind too, I was also grieving during that particular time.
Exactly.
And so I didn't want to get my thoughts confused with God's thoughts.
Yeah.
And thinking, because sometimes we can think it's God speaking and it's not God speaking. It's what I needed some clarity. So I did a lot of fleecing of the Lord and having conversations. In fact, Apostle was one of the first persons that I went to sit down with him and to share what I was experiencing and what was going on. And he was the one who really brought the confirmation, if you will. And so, you know, with that, I had several conversations, and then a couple of extraordinary things happened that only the Lord could do that really confirmed. It was a challenge, and keeping in mind, it wasn't like my call to ministry was not easy, and it wasn't a joyful time.
Yeah.
I went through a great challenge for the call. And to be honest, I would say it was traumatic. When you get the level of pushback, because again, I'm being called to lead a church, a new church, a church that's 10 years old, but now this church has moved into a brand new building.
Yeah.
And God is calling this person who's never preached a day in her life, had no interest in preaching, and now saying God has called you to the ministry.
Why you when there's so many other people that's qualified? Why you when because you the wife, that automatically?
Right. Some people thought I was trying to, I was power grabbing, thought I was wanting to hold on to power and so forth.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. That when it comes down to being called to become a pastor, let me back it up. My husband was different. He knew from birth that he was called to be a pastor. He loved it. He cherished it, and there are people who are like that. So I don't want to say, generalize and say everybody runs, because that's not true.
Right.
But for those of us,
right.
who did not have a desire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not going to walk up to this and say, I want to become pastor, because there are some people who look at it and think it's a glorified position. It's one of prestige and so forth, but they really don't understand the burden of the anointing that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the responsibility and then all of that comes into it. You just don't walk into that and just say, oh, I really would like to have that.
Yeah. No, well, but that's because people often don't understand what that entails, and the level to whom much is given, much is required, right?
Exactly.
So the level of accountability and the level of responsibility, to your point that you mentioned, is great, not only to the house, not only to your walk with God, but also those that are connected to you. So now at this point, you still got children.
That's it. Because when God calls one, he just like you said, when God calls one, he really calls the whole house.
Yeah.
Because everybody is involved to some point.
Sure.
Everybody is attached to that. It is not one person being called to the ministry. The entire house has been called.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Everybody has a piece of that pie. Everyone.
Oh my God, that's so good. Ooh, this is good. This is good. All right, let me see. There's some more questions that's got, and feel free if you're watching. So if you're joining us, we're talking about women and family with Dr. Pastor Karen Johnson from First Christian. And if you have questions, please post them, but also share, because sharing is caring. Thank you. So here's a question that has popped up. How does the First Lady deal with the church hurt when you have been called to help others? Let's be real. Church hurt is the worst hurt.
They're absolutely right. Church hurt. Yeah. Church hurt is the worst. And sometimes people think that pastors don't experience church hurt, but sheep can bite. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And I mean, it was to a point for me, and this was all during my calling.
Yeah.
I was ready to exhume his body. Let me just show you how off the hook I was. I was about to exhume his body and go down the road. Yeah, I'm like, you have it. Girl, let me tell you.
And these bones live bones. Get up.
The only thing that saved it was I couldn't do that to his mother.
oh yeah, that would be pretty traumatic.
I was mad. Oh man, yeah. So it took that was a whole nother level of forgiveness, and that's a whole nother message where I learned that it's one thing to forgive a person who comes to apologize to you. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to forgive someone who never apologizes to you and never acknowledges the offense. Mm-hmm. And so I learned from that forgiveness is a process as well. Yeah. And it's something I had to do repeatedly. I mean, I actually had to write down names and then go down the list and go, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, and had to do it a number of times because you know, I might feel forgiving. And that's another thing. We think forgiveness is a feeling. It's not a feeling.
No, yeah.
I had to do it a number of times to just say, you know, I forgive you. It felt like it was forgiveness then, but the next day, I had to start the list
all over again. And it's true, and it's so true. So, you know, Pastor Karen, one of the things I do with Daddy, so I have the program Daddy's Girl Lifestyle. And so when the women go through that process, one of the segments is on forgiving. And the truth of the matter is you can't overcome something, number one, that you don't deal with. That's one. You have to confront it. You got to confront it. Sometimes confronting it may just be in a letter. Sometimes confronting it is when God allows the right timing for that to happen. I have people that say, well, the person passed away, so I can't confront. That's not true. You can confront it. You have to be able to release it. And here's a technique that I share with people that if they want, here's one way to measure where you are. Close your eyes, put yourself in that offense space. What happened? What was going on? I want you to see it in your mind's eye. And
Mm-hmm.
if emotions start to rise up in you, you still may have some work that needs to be done. If
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can go through the process in your mind without emotions
Mm-hmm.
attached to it, then can you really say, I feel like I've been delivered from this and I've
That's
truly
true.
let it go. But the goal of forgiveness is not being able to be connected to the emotion of it. That's
Mm-hmm.
what causes us to keep playing it in our mind. And the minute you say it, you get mad all over again.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, when she said, you be
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute, I need some more time.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. That is that process that you have to go through. And you're right. When you know you're forgiven, when you can see the person or even talk to them and you don't have those feelings. Don't mean I'm gonna let you back in my space, but at the
No
same
problem.
time,
There's a difference. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
at the same time, you don't bother me anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And that goes back to the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about those boundaries, we treat people how to teach us, we teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
Just because I have forgiven you doesn't mean we need to be close, right? I
Exactly.
don't have
Exactly.
to hold you in the regard in the space that you had before. I can still love, and my favorite phrase, I can love you from a distance. Let's be
Right.
clear.
Right.
We
Right.
ain't got to be in the same room. We ain't got to
Right.
be in the same
Right.
state. I
Right.
love you. I and our best wishes to you.
Yeah.
But what we cannot do, what I cannot do, is allow you to have that opportunity to damage me again. And it's
Exactly.
okay to separate yourself from people when they have really caused true harm. And you referenced it when you said, and they're not willing to take accountability. You know,
Yes.
sometimes forgiving people is not about what you're going to get out of it. I think that's a component of the process. Are you okay with just saying, listen, you offended me, this bothered me, but I forgive you?
Mm-hmm.
Not because it's going to help them, it's going to free you.
Exactly. And it is. It's unforgiveness it is truly poisonous to your own system,
Yeah.
and it is for your own personal healing because a lot of times those people are not even thinking about you. You know what I mean? So they're renting a whole lot of space. You allow them to rent space in your head, and they're not even thinking about you. And so you got to let that go, and not allow that to continue to poison your happiness. One
Yeah.
thing I've learned over these years of going around the sun several times is that you are responsible for your own happiness. You're
Yeah.
responsible. And too often we're looking to other people to make us happy because they need
Yeah.
to do something to make us happy. No,
Right.
I'm responsible.
Yeah. It is a choice, right?
It's
You
a
can choose to be happy. You can choose to be
yeah,
free. You can choose
yeah,
to feel. It is a choice, and it's not about what they will or will not do. You
exactly.
must choose.
Exactly.
Pastor Karen, tell me just a little bit about where you are now. What was some of the highlights of being a mom and being a wife and being now a mother to many in the role of a pastor, right? Like that level of mentorship or motherhood to those that see you in that light.
Oh, wow. Well, I love being a mom. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love being a mom. I think my kids are great kids. Well, of course, every mother does, but I think my kids are great.
Right.
I love being a mother-in-law, which you will soon be walking down that road. Oh no, well, you will soon be doing that yourself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I love that, and having a grandchild. I like that part of my life. Where you just kind of sit back. I have come to the age now where as a mom there and as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
I've come to the age where I just kind of understand that there are just some that it's okay to be me.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
It's I know what I offer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know what
Mm-hmm.
I bring to the table, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've come to that point where again, and I did a post not too long ago where it's coming to the point of understanding that yeah, you're concerned about, you think about what people think about you, but you
Right.
need to think less about
Yeah.
what people think about you and start thinking more about yourself. And so I think all of that helped me to become even a better mother and
Mhm.
grandmother and pastor.
Mhm.
Through the congregation is when I become even more secure and confident in myself. I am
Mhm.
able to give that to my
Mhm.
congregation and be a better pastor. When I come to this point of I guess a level of peace as to where
Mhm.
I am, and I think for some of you don't get to until you get to a certain age. It comes with
Mhm.
life, with living life, and
Mhm.
you get to a point where you determine um,
Yeah.
where you're going to go. But I think those are the things that help me
Mhm.
to to enjoy myself, to enjoy being a mother, enjoy being a grandmother, enjoy being
Mhm.
a mother in love, and enjoy being a pastor. Is
Mhm.
is coming to that peace, because you get to a certain point where you go like, okay,
But it is what it is.
it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel like telling the folks, like, that you will survive.
We are.
You'll be okay.
We are. That's so good. That's good that you shared that, because I know for me it's really important. Look, I've been through a whole heap of stuff, right? And I'm sure it ain't gonna end just because I'm the age I am right now. But I am very passionate about helping others cut the timeline down if they can, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
some of the things that I've experienced, you don't have to go through those things. I'm very
Exactly.
passionate about pouring into women and young women to have a different mind's eye about your experiences, and knowing that it is a choice to either choose to walk that path because you want to go and do it on your own,
Yeah.
or be wise while there's gems being offered to you to say, I can cut my time down by 3 years. Oh, I'm gonna take this route.
Right.
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 Um,
Right.
yeah. Anything
Right.
you want to share in that
Right.
regard?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to mentoring other women and even women in ministry and period, you absolutely right. You do want to share so that they don't have to go through some of the things that you went through. That you can avoid some of that.
Mhm.
It's also a time to help prep the next generation.
Generation. Mhm.
Then I feel I'm at this point where we're in ministry where both hands are on the baton. I envision it like a relay race,
Mhm.
and I'm ahead, but it's down for me to pass the baton back.
Yeah,
And at a certain point in a relay race, both hands are on the baton.
that's true. That's
And
true.
so right now, even it's just for a fraction of a second, but see, right
Yeah.
now, we'll see where we are. It's both hands on the baton, but
Yeah.
it's coming to a point when I have to let that go. But this is the time now
Yeah.
where we continue to develop and to
Mhm.
pour into people,
Yeah.
uh, to see the fruit of your labor, because we have to reproduce.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
you cannot be an organism and you're not reproducing.
Sure.
So you
Sure.
have to be reproducing, and I think it's totally irresponsible when we
Mhm.
aren't preparing someone to take our place.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. So is there a book in the making?
Yes, there is.
Good. Because I saw enough see a book.
Yes, there
You was talking, I was like, are you working on a book?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Good.
there is, and I will. You will be the first to know.
Good. Good.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
You answer. You don't have to say anymore. So long as what I was seeing ain't crazy. Good. Good book. And I want to be able to make sure I come back. And I'm sorry, I just realized it's getting dark. I'm all comfortable, and then I looked in the screen. I said, "Why I look so dark?" But we're getting ready to come to a close. Any final comments that you would like to share with the viewers whether, from a motherhood perspective, from a woman and family perspective, that people can walk away. Oh, there's a question on it. It says, will PK do another one woman play?
Another one woman play? I don't think I've ever done a one woman play.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe they can give you.
Sonia, can you elaborate on that? Ask a further question while we're getting final comments from Pastor Karen. Yeah.
Okay, I guess. What would I have to say? Well, I would say to the moms, especially the young moms, enjoy your kids, because before you know it, they're grown and they're gone. And cherish those moments. I know the little rascals can get on your nerves sometimes and just seem like you can't get any space, but just cherish those times with your children right now, because again, they'll be grown, and as you're cherishing it, continue to just pour into them, constantly validating who they are. So much that they're facing out here, especially our children of color, and we have to be very realistic about that. And that what we are pouring into them. And then as far as women and moms, whether you can be a single mom, it doesn't matter whether you have children or not, is always, again, my line is boundaries and balance. And that is, it's important to reserve yourself.
Yeah.
And to become the best version of yourself. And even if you have forgotten who you are along the way, or what makes you smile, if you've forgotten what your dreams are, now is the time. Go look for it.
Again.
It said, get a life. Go and find your life. Do it responsibly.
That's it. I'm packing up. Y'all can have the house. I'm gone.
Yeah. Don't leave the kitties. But take some time, and don't feel guilty about taking time out for yourself.
So
don't feel guilty like it's robbery that you need a moment and you just want to sit down and dream. It's one thing where we just started. Well, it's almost like it's too late for me, so I'm going to pour into my kids. It's not ever too late. It really isn't. Age really is a number, and age is a number, and age is an attitude. And so, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with this time that God has given to us? He has given all of us this particular time. We all have 24/7.
Yeah.
We all have that 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with it?
Okay.
That's going to that will help to make you a better person. And that in turn will help people in your circle and who are around you. Because when you start getting happy, everybody else starts getting a little bit happier, So, that's kind of basically in a nutshell. Enjoy who you are. Enjoy who you are, and enjoy who you're becoming. Because all of the experiences that you've had in your life, all of the struggles, all of the good times, all of the not so good times, all of them help to develop who you are right now.
Absolutely.
And it will continue to develop as you become a better you.
I so appreciate you, Dr. Karen. Thank you so much for the words of wisdom. Sonia said woman at the well. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, it was in a play. It was an Easter play.
Oh, okay.
And in the Easter play, I did. I think I did it for a sermon one time where I dressed as the woman at the well.
Oh, wow.
But I did it from a more modern version of the woman who was at the well.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's what she's asking about. Yep. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time You tapped on so many good nuggets. If you, again, those that are watching, please share and tag hashtag worship and wellness, so others can have the opportunity to get the gem that we have tonight. You so I don't know, we started talking about relationships and then went on forgiveness. But those that are watching, the truth of the matter is it's all interconnected, right? Like it's all a part of who we are in the life that we walk, in the paths that we take to get to where we're going. The piece I would like to say is, if you're watching, next month we are doing a series called Untie the Binds. Untie the Binds. And it is on relationship. And it's very interesting because God gave me this at the beginning of the month of March. And then this whole big debacle about this Derek dude who I didn't know and I had to learn about. And
yeah.
I was like, could somebody tell me who this Derek dude is? And then everybody started telling. I said, oh God, you are so infinite in the ways that you do what you do. Yeah. You just told me we talk about relationships. And now here's this thing, right? So we're talking about Untie the Binds. We're going to tackle the first week of the month will be men find is the topic. The women cleave is the second week. Third week, we're going to have a panel discussion of men and women about relationships. And we're not only focusing on intimate relationships, but we're also talking about relationships one with another, friendships, ministry relationships. We're going to tackle it because some of us are tied to things that we should not be tied to. And it's time to start untying some of those binds that we have. The very last week, we're going to talk to our babies. And so I'm going to have a panel discussion with some of our youth and what they understand about relationship and what does that mean to them. So that's the month of April. I'm excited. And you should be too. So be prepared. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week at the beginning of the month, first Monday of the month, where we will begin talking about Untie the Binds. Today has been the final series of women, principles of the Proverb 31 women. And remember, what you do with what you get only is what you do with what you get. So you just got to remember to apply it. Apply. Anything that you've heard tonight, take it and apply it. There are a lot of gems. We believe in biblical principles, but with practical steps. Tonight has been an amazing night. I love you all. God bless. See you next week. This has been Worship and Wellness Monday with Dr. Pastor Karen Johnson.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.